you're in for a very, very exciting session as we talk about the new India that is Bharat and the digital transformation that is taking place, not just in metros, but in the new India. And I can't think of a better panel than the panelists that we have today. Each of them has immense experience. Their businesses reach out into the hinterland, into Bharat, and they have a presence in Bharat which is meaningful. Now, in terms of this new digital India that we're talking about, let's take a quick look at the numbers. How many people do you think are online today? Anybody? What's the current number? The current number is supposed to be 759 million and counting. And there are more being added on every day. And what do you think they're doing? 220 million of them are shopping. 80 million are paying utility bills. 110 million are paying for online games. 65 million are ordering food online. 25 million use ride-hailing services. And 15 million have paid for edutech courses. So this is fairly mainstream. This is not just, entertainment, not just social media. The drivers of digital are actually largely what the government of India has done, and they've done it very, very well. So you have the train booking site and app, IRCTC, that has 100 million people booking tickets on it. UPI, the payments interface, has 350 million on it, and the CoWIN app, and all of us are familiar with that, right, after the pandemic, has 1 billion people on it. That's the extent of transformation that's taking place. But that is all India. I'm just setting the context for all of you. What about Bharat? What are they doing? What are the people in Bharat doing? In terms of activity online, they are spending 4.5 hours on their phone every day. The All India total has exceeded 5 hours, driven by Bharat, where they spend 4.5 hours online. The average spends on digital services are at par or higher than metros. Grocery is on par. Health tech and pharmacy is 1.3x. Food delivery, believe it or not, is 1.1x. EduTech is 1.6x. And guess what? They trust local, relatable influencers more than anybody else. 84% of them would rather listen to an influencer from their area speaking in their language. In metros, it's 63. In tier 1, it is 75. And 83% of them in Bharat prefer made in India products. And everything that we have here is made in India on the panel. So that augurs well for us. Now these are numbers I'm giving you from studies done by Google, Temasek and Bain & Company. And also from a Kantar report which was commissioned by the IAMAI, the Internet and Mobile Association of India. What do you think is going to happen over the next 2 years? Digital users are going to grow to 900 million by 2025. Urban India penetration, which is at 71%, will grow much slower at 6%. Bharat will grow at 14%. And 56% of all new users online will be from Bharat. In addition to payments, the most used are, of course, entertainment, social media, and communications. That sets the context for the new India that is Bharat and where we are going. So now on to the panel. And I'm going to open it up with some questions. We're going to hear from every one of them. Given the transformation that's taking place, especially across Bharat, how have you made use of digital optimization to be able to streamline and make more efficient your processes and to increase your throughput, so to speak? So if you could hear from you one by one. I'll start with Ramesh of Adiyar Ananda Bhavan.
Thank you, David. I think so. When you talk about people online, There is another big group which is offline, which is LAN, local area network people, which is the workforce. Basically, the lot of activities which businesses are depend on internet as well as the tools, digital tools which are working within a certain environment, which is within the company. So digital adoption is kind of omnipresent right now. So a lot of businesses who are scaling up or who's giving as a service, digital adoption is the foremost thing any company would ensure that there is quality products coming out, quality services coming out, and also they're able to track them, monitor, course correct, and everything you need tools for the services to be rendered the right way. So from our perspective, being in a food industry, food retail, as well as packaged food, so we have a lot of touch points of many stocks and products and people moving across India and even globally. So we have made a tracking mechanism for each of these. I mean, let's say our logistical tracking with IoT devices, and also every batch which moves from the factory to the outlet, everything is now digitally monitored in a control center. So imagine 10 years ago, we didn't have this kind of a facility. Now we are able to use that to monitor, and we know at what speed a vehicle is going. If they are like overspeeding, we'll be able to know now. And if there is a delay in sending the products on time, we will know now. We don't have to even call the driver and say, where are you? We know exactly where he is. And we'll also send a push notification to them that you're delayed by 5 minutes. We have to reach there soon. So the digital adoption in doing ease of business as well as how well you do it. I mean, now we have come to a stage from ease of business to how well you're going to do. So the digital adoption is more towards how well you will be able to do your business, and people who are adopting to it will definitely see the change.
Thank you, Ramesh. I think to give you a context, Adyar Anandabhavan sounds very traditional, right? But you heard the level of digital transformation and adoption. They have 150 outlets, 15 outlets abroad, in addition to the 150 across Tamil Nadu and a few other states and Delhi. So you can imagine the scale at which they are operating. Thank you very much. Vignesh, would you like to speak about Waycool and digital adoption to ensure supply chain as well as vendor management?
Yeah, thank you, David. I'll give a little bit of context about the space we operate. We are essentially at Waycool is a tech-enabled agri and food supply chain company. So what does it imply? See, in India, food and agri is a $800 billion consumption market. How does this food or ingredient reach our plate? It takes about 6 to 12 steps for every product to reach the end consumer. So imagine the multiple varieties of products. Each of this, the supply chain is about 6 to 12 layers. And many of these transactions, imagine the amount of transactions. And our farm holding is very fragmented, typically about a couple of acres, not more than that. Every transaction is probably about 1 ton, where our at the farm end, whereas 300 million tons is our annual food grain production alone. Another 300 million tons is about our fruits and vegetables production, right? So the number of transactions is huge. And the time within which these transactions has to happen is also fairly short. In case of food, fresh vegetables and all, typically within 12 hours, all these transactions will happen. Now, each transaction requires 3 things to flow both sides. One is the physical product, second is the information, third is the financing. The payment has to happen for the transaction. Now, all of this, as, let's go back maybe 30 years or 40 years. The amount of people migration was fairly limited. With globalization, people have traveled all over, not just within the country, abroad as well. But food tastes have remained the same. So they all want the same food which they grew up with, right? I mean, David was mentioning people taking hotels in California closer to San Jose because they want to be closer to the restaurant they grew up with. So when this happens, the complexity of the supply chain increases. The reason I say this is digitalization for us is not from a consumer point of view, but each of this transaction in such a high volume, complex set of transactions is actually made easier thanks to digitization. As I said, both information, because we are able to plan better what the consumer demand is and build a demand-led supply chain. That reduces wastage. Payments, in fact, even when we source from farmers, the payments happen only through digital medium. No cash has been used. This has been the case for like 7 years, 8 years. So the amount of infrastructure which has gone in and the amount of adoption is phenomenal even at the back-end side of things. And also from a trust point of view in terms of quality, dissemination of quality information, etc. See, food is complex because everybody has different preferences and it's not easy to quantify these preferences. But there are tools we use. We use tools to kind of figure out what is the grade of the product. You can do that by taking a photograph of the product. That brings in objectivity. Whenever objectivity comes in, transparency is there and more transactions can happen and the sector can get formalized. And food, I think the TAM presentation, we saw that there are a lot of people who are coming up with their own private labels also for brands. Food is by far much less branded than other segments, right? I mean, today mobile phone or footwear or apparel, I mean, rarely do we find people wearing unbranded. Why not for food? Why it should be branded? It's not just about being branded as such, but brand gives a sense of trust. It stands for certain parameters, etc. How do we make this happen? By having more data around what it stands for. And for that data, digitization does help in a large way. So for us, we've had impact of digitization right from the farming side, where we have a program called Outgrow, where more than 2 lakh people have downloaded and used this app. This is at the farmer engagement side of it, whether it is inputs or early detection of pests, etc., through taking a photo and they get early warnings, etc. There's a lot of, I mean, like us, there are many other companies also who are doing one segment of the, solving one segment of the problem on that side. And even from the distribution point of view, there's a lot of, given the complexity, we serve more than 70,000 outlets. So given the complexity, there is a lot of digitization which has helped us manage this kind of tough supply chain as well. So that would be our sense of where digitization has really helped us.
Thank you, Vignesh. I hope you got the perspective, right? They're dealing with thousands of farmers with a few acres of land holding, but the total volume that they are generating at the user end is 300 million tons. So you can imagine the scale of fragmentation on one end and the scale of consolidation at the other end. There's another aspect of digital transformation of Bharat that I would like you to take note of. The names that you hear are fairly familiar, right? Junior Kupana Restaurants, ADR Ananda Bhavan, Vehicle, of course, is new, and SPR Constructions. Yet all the people sitting here are professionals, CEOs or directors of companies who are professionals. In other words, these traditional businesses are also becoming institutions, and they're using modern digital transformation to become efficient and be able to scale their business. Thank you so much, Vignesh. So Bala, could we hear from you?
Yeah. Thanks, David, and good afternoon to all of you. It's an interesting topic, and I'd like to open with what we are doing at Junior Kupana. Since see, we are a 62-year-old business, but 30% of our business comes from online now. So we're also modernizing. That's not something, a favor that we are doing to ourselves. If we don't digitize, we will probably no longer be there, right? So whether reaching out to customers or servicing them online or fulfillments. So I would try to bring this whole digital thing into 3 frameworks. Many of you are entrepreneurs here. When we talk about digital or technology, which we can interchange in terms of words, there are 3 things that we need to look at. The first basket is the customer, right? We call this the DFE model: discovery, fulfillment, and engagement. So the discovery from offline is going more online. Fulfillment is both offline, online. Engagement is again online, right? Because offline engagement is that more expensive. So how you can play this DFE model in your relationship with the customer is changing drastically. So that's why Junior Kupana is now more on digital, with influencers, and so on and so forth. So I think the customer basket is something that is changing, and we are adapting to that change. Second is the business process, how you do it, how you use technology, how you better your payment cycle, how you use technology that can optimize and increase your efficiency. This is needed because otherwise you will get out of business, right? You might be selling, but you have to make these reasonable profits. You have to be competitive. So that's also a place where we are adopting digital in a major way. So that's the second basket, which is more internal. So first basket is customer. Second basket is internal, which is your process and systems. Third is a very interesting basket, right? I mean, I'm not sure how many people have thought about it, but you know, in digital, there is a digital adopters, somebody like us, we are adopting digital, and there are people with digital DNA. Unfortunately or fortunately, market seems to reward people with digital DNA. Okay, so I'll tell you an example. There are apparel manufacturers who have apparel brands, 200, 300 crores, they'll get a 400 crore valuation. If you ask 2 times of top line. Recently, Rare Rabbit is negotiating a valuation round with Tata Capital, 300 crores top line at 2,500 crores valuation. Lenskart has raised, Lenskart sales is at about 3,500 crores. They've raised money at 10 times their valuation. If you talk in food, our own food business, Rebel Foods is at 1,200 crores. They've raised money at 12,000 crores valuation. So when you're talking about digital, one important thing is you have to understand that because if you have a digital DNA, you can probably scale fast. That's what the market is recognizing and rewarding better valuations. So a Kapleshwar Opticals, which might do 100 crores, will get 200 crores. But Lenskart, which is doing 3,000 crores, will get a 30,000 crore valuation. So as a businessman, I think what we are trying to do is how we can get a digital DNA. So that's probably a key takeaway from digital.
It's a very interesting perspective, right? Junior Kupana came out of Erode. They were the pioneer in Kongunadu food. And they are about 51 restaurants across Tamil Nadu. And here is a traditional brand out of Erode looking for a digital DNA. That's transformation of Bharat for you. Finally, Shiva, we come to you, CEO of Marketplace of India for SPR Constructions, where 40% of all the people who have taken space in the Marketplace of India are from rural India, from Bharat. So let's hear from Shiva.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. The most difficult part of being in the panel, where 3 veterans have already spoken everything about, digital, and then you have to just speak. But the good part about it is all 3 are from the food industry. So I'm the only guy from the construction industry. If you can just look at the shelf life of food products, which requires quick response, faster adaptations. It's more in terms of, they speak about processes and other things in minutes. Probably, the shelf life is a month or a year max. We are talking about a product which would take at least 3 to 4 years to complete. Thanks to pandemic, after pandemic, the industry has grown multifold. We are forced to look at the digitalization in terms of delivery of the product to the customers, updations. All this needs to be automated so that there is no error from our side. And second part is we are coming out with one of the largest facility as an a B2B market option, which would facilitate the entire trade, irrespective of which business they are into. This would be the largest display center across the country. We are looking at almost around 1.4 to 1.5 lakh footfall every day. So for me to just bring in this kind of footfall into the market, definitely we need to adapt to the digital this thing. Second thing is products which has got initially when Paytm, GPay and all came, people are thinking about smaller denominations in terms of transactions. We started seeing even huger transaction, bigger transactions started happening in terms of digital. So that's one huge change that we see. The trust in terms of Bharat as a transaction medium and as a medium for people to just quickly transfer money and then take decisions. Buying a house normally takes 1.5, 45 days, 45 days to 60 days time for a decision maker to decide on which property to buy. Now they are well informed because of digital informations. People do their homework, come to the property. They would have already done their homework before coming to the property. Once they come to the property, they take decisions instantly. The transfers are happening immediately, where we are able to fulfill our transactions much faster. We always look at from point of sale, how do we measure is the conversion in terms of site visits, because the decisions are predominantly in terms of after seeing the product. So customer has to come to a place. We look at the transformation from being a prospect to being a customer. Earlier used to be 5%. Now it has gone up to 30% in terms of conversion of site visit. That is majorly because of digital inputs and digital information that customers are able to get it, update it on daily basis. And if we are behind, if you are just falling short, I don't think we'll be there in the race. Thanks.
So you've heard what the panelists have to say about digital optimization and the difference it's making to their businesses, although they are spread across Bharat, or their source markets are in Bharat. Now, one fun fact, okay? All the three panelists there are from the food industry. He's from construction, but he's the one with the hotel management degree. So, by the way, I also have a hotel management degree. Okay, we'll move on to the next section. And I think by the time we finish this, we'll have done our half an hour of panel discussion, after which we'll open up for Q&A. The next section we're going to talk about is digital payments transformation. And you're all familiar with digital payments, right? I don't think there's a single person in this room who has not made digital payments. You're either using GPay, Paytm, Bharat Pay, Phone Pay, whatever, and which is all on the UPI interface. So this has transformed the way, and Shiva touched upon it very briefly in terms of the way large transactions are now taking place using digital payment systems. So we're going to delve into this to see how it has kind of increased the efficiency and the velocity of their businesses. Shiva's already mentioned that the time for a person to buy a property has been telescoped, because they see everything online, come and visit the property, decide to buy, and pay online, so that everything happens much faster. What used to take place in 6 months takes place now in 30 to 45 days. So we're already seeing the transformation. We're now going to hear, and this time I think we'll go the other way around, because Shiva will not have such a long wait. Digital payments transformation. How has it made a difference? The past, and what is it like now?
See, past, it used to be instruments, people used to bring checks. So there is no other way in terms of, either a DD or a check. And many a times, check gets bounced, because it's a large transactions. And a ticket size of demand, we will not be able to hold it for long. Okay, because if you just look at any property, people today have choices in terms of vastu, then the preference of which floor, facing which side, and all those things. So if I lose one, it is as good as a food product. So if there are 5 customers looking out for the same property and it is not getting realized, I cannot wait for 3-4 days, because I run schemes, so that needs to be realized faster. So now the faster aspect in terms of how it is happening across is, as I said before, customer comes with a lot of knowledge, lot of information. So the moment he comes, he's able to decide, and he doesn't have to carry his check. Even a customer who comes to just visit takes decisions instantly. So he makes the upfront payment, and typically, in this industry, the booking charges are nothing less than 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs. So that kind of a transaction happens instantly. So that's a huge difference when we look at from the payment pattern as such.
Thank you, Shiva. So Bala, Junior Kupana we all know, because we've been to these restaurants and so on. But I think the level of digital payments transformation is not only in the front end with consumers, but to vendors and suppliers as well. So it'll be interesting to hear how that has changed from the past to what it is today?
No, no doubt, like every industry, payments has been game-changing all sectors, and ours is not an exception. So I'd be repeating the same thing if I say customers pay now more, through your UPI, through Google Pay and stuff like that. And also vendors, I don't think we issue checks anymore unless, there is some specific reason. So it's more or less transfers. But I think what's really happened is post the demonetization and UPI adoption, it's cleaned up the system. That's why you see the GST collections have gone up. It's gone into more of white. So approximately at least 25 to 30% of every turnover that is getting captured is going to the exchequer some way. I hope that this translates into good infrastructure and something where there's a platform for all businesses to build upon. And that's what we are hoping for, because more and more money and collections to the government and more government spends on infrastructure, I think it'll come back into the economy. So it'll indirectly help. Otherwise, yes, I don't know last time when I carried cash. Personally, as a customer, I've got used to no cash. So I presume that's what we all are getting used to as well. Yeah. And we're also designing our customer process for that we don't expect anybody to bring in cash anymore.
You did mention earlier that you're looking at having a digital DNA. So it's very much in keeping with the overall scheme of things in terms of digital DNA. That
Yeah, I
payments
think-
are all streamlined as digital.
Yeah, payment is a process, but I think digital DNA was more, it's more very ingrained. It's something that we have to do a blood infusion. Probably we have to acquire somebody with digital DNA. I don't have a digital DNA. Neither Junior Kupana has, but we are aspiring to be. There's nothing wrong in aspiring. Digital DNA is something like people like Flipkart, Lenskart, all these guys have. So somewhere we can collaborate with those kind of people who have digital DNA, and we also have that digital DNA.
Thank you, Bala. Vignesh, you touched upon digital payments earlier.
Yeah.
Would you like to expand on that?
Maybe I'll spend a little on the digital DNA part also. I think. No, I don't know about that, but children these days, for them the point of truth where the coin flips is whether Google says that or not. It is not whether somebody has said it or not. So I mean, people are looking for. I think the people are looking at digital as a means of not just discovery, as also as a source of truth as well. So there is going. A few years down the line, we will see more and more increasing transformation towards digital initiated transactions, etc. Coming to the payments part, I think, a lot of payments has become instantaneous. You don't have a need for carrying change, etc. Many business models have grown well because of the ease of transaction on the instantaneous payment side. But we also do see, and many of our customers do use payment mechanisms like QR code based payments, etc. All that is happening, and bank transfers have always been the norm. But there is still a large scope for how digitization can happen in the credit cycle, credit part of it. Because businesses there's a lot of credit associated with running businesses. But the risk of taking that credit, there is a lot of minimization which can happen. The moment that happens, a lot of energy of the businesses can be focused on creating better products and better services for their customers, and in real value add rather than focusing on the auxiliary aspects of managing payments and collections, etc. We do see a lot of potential there. I mean, taking slightly more perspective, we see that digitization has helped modularize things. For example, we have a private labeling and contract manufacturing business. Here, we are able to guarantee product and process quality because these are digitized and there are records for each of this. Even something as like, is it a hygienic facility? There are 250 points which are there, which are auditable, and it can be repeatedly demonstrated that it is happening. So something like this helps a sector grow. Payments is one part of it where it's very objective. Okay, the transfer has hit me now, I don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to worry about counterfeit and all that, right? So similarly, that kind of enabling happens everywhere. And when that happens, people can plug and play with somebody to launch their brand. They can focus on doing their own marketing and distribution better. In every aspect of the value chain, this can happen. Modularization can happen.
Thank you, Vignesh. Ramesh, would you like to?
Yeah, so as rightly mentioned by Bala, so how many of you have gone to the ATM the recent past? I think so. The amount of people going to the ATM is gradually decreasing, and yeah, of course, that's the end. So I'm also going to touch upon what is going to be the next changes in the way the payment or the payment economy is going to work. Because I, being a chartered accountant and have my peers in the banks and the fintech industry. So from the macro level, India is going to save billions of rupees in the mint, what they spend over. The coins, the amount of steel goes into the coins, we could build a skyscraper or we could build a bridge. So the savings what we are going to make using the digital payments is going to be humongous. And the first thing is the ease of payment. Other thing is the byproducts I'm going to talk about. The ATMs are going to go away. The banking as such, the retail space which the banks currently occupying will shrink. And the interaction of going to the bank will drop drastically. And the cash collections mechanism, which is the so-called CMS, cash management services, which is one of the largest revenue grosser for the bank, will also drop because the cash collections will decrease. Theoretically and practically, I have seen this practically at Adyar and the Bhavan, the amount of cash which we used to carry 4 years ago versus what we are carrying today is far less. So, for the lack of time, I think so I should cut short my point that adoption of payments is actually increasing the reconciliation cycle. Digital payments is actually reducing the reconciliation cycle, and the businesses are having much more control over their receivables these days. And I know clearly this payment came for this particular invoice. So we are able to map it using a robotic process automation or backend tools which are available these days. So there is a huge kind of savings across, and also the efficiency has improved phenomenally because of digital payments, and everybody has to follow the suit and actually look forward rather than what we have currently. There is more to come.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We know that Bharat is going to grow even faster than metro areas in the years to come, and that the scale of transformation and the scale of efficiencies that Ramesh touched upon will only increase. And things will become more and more digital, not just in terms of processes and payments, but in terms of the overall experience of digital will become mainstream. That brings us to the end of the panel discussion. I've been told that because we're running late overall, we don't have time for Q&A at this point of time. But I would request the panelists to interact with you during lunch, and you can certainly ask them whatever questions you have, and they'll be happy to oblige. So that brings us to the end of this panel discussion. Can we have a round of applause for the panelists? Thank you.